Gene is a proud United States veteran.
You want to give them a real creative Christmas gift? How much you really care for them? Show them how much you care with an heirloom camellia from Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala. Bob has hundreds, no make that thousands of camellias to choose from, starting as low as $9.99, and you can spend up to $100 or more. No matter what, it's a gift, a better gift than the usual humdrum. How about a gift certificate? Buy as gifts, get free gift certificates for yourself, only at Bob Wines. And don't leave until you check inside the old-timey greenhouse for 20% off on hundreds of distinctive one-of-a-kind items. Take some time to visit this week. A gorgeous 5-acre garden any day till 4, Saturdays till 3. Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, the same blooming Christmas location since 1952.
Hi, Matt Wilkerson here, your Verizon representative with news that will hum your car, make it smart and safe. How? With the new Hum device by Verizon. You can rest assured you're never alone. Flat tire? Lost? Accident? For $10 a month, Hum by Verizon has you covered. And I will come to you in Marion County to install the Hum for free. Time to call me at 352-528-0020. Are you ready to hum along? Call 352-528-0020.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new truck.
Yep, we can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too.
Well, as a matter of fact, join me, Matt Gibbs from Sunrise Automotive, every Tuesday at 10 for auto repair with personal care right here on The Source.
Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion brings together business and community partners, economic development leaders, and educational providers to connect employers with qualified skilled talent and job seekers with employment and career development opportunities. Tune in the first Wednesday of each month at 9:30 to Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion, and learn how they can help you.
Now you did it. Are you completely insane? He's back. He, who must not be named, the man, the myth, the only guy in Ocala to eat his own weight in fried pickles. Twice. Now, you asked for it. Sorta. Live and in person. It's Tom Schmitz.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks with Tom Schmitz. I have an Ocala resident in the studio now that I'm very excited to talk to after just starting one of his books, Patrick Pacalo. He is a freelance writer, humanitarian. He knows his social sciences. He's here to talk about his books. One of them is called The Industrial Accident Investigation Techniques Manual. That's it right there. And then the one that I started, The U.S. Constitution and the Red Stain, both by author Patrick Pacalo. Patrick, good morning to you.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Let me turn your mic up. Try it again.
There we go. Good morning. It's good to be here, Tom.
You know, it's early in the morning. My hands are cold, you know.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about yourself, Patrick. Are you a Ocala native?
I am not an Ocala native. I'm what you would call a Navy brat. I was born in Pensacola when my dad was an instructor there. Moved around. Then I went into the Army and moved around some more. And I said, if I get a chance to retire, it's going to be in Ocala, Florida. So here I am.
Great city to retire in.
Yeah.
We have a few retirees here.
Just one or two.
Yeah, one or two. So when did your writing career start?
Well, really, in 1989, I wrote a couple of op-ed pieces for Army Times, and that was my first paid writing. You know, I just walked into Army Times, was working in the industrial section of Army Times, you know, where they print the paper. And when we would take breaks, when the presses were down, we'd all read the paper. And I read this ad that said, Capitol Hill reporters need help. See editor, Army Times. So I took that and I walked up to the editor of the Army Times and I said, I got an idea for a piece on the drug war, and I got an idea for a piece on how this weapons procurement thing is way out of hand. And he said, go for it. And those were my first 2 articles.
You've been writing ever since?
Yes, sir, since 1989.
Now, tell us a little bit about the industrial accident, because I really want to get in the U.S. Constitution, but I want to talk about both books. Tell us a bit about the Industrial Accident Investigation Techniques Manual.
Well, it's a generic techniques manual for any industry, from automobile accidents to manufacturing accidents to aviation accidents, other transportation, whatever, techniques that can be used by the supervisory personnel from the first line supervisor on up to investigate workplace accidents. Okay, and my
it's a how-to book of investigation.
It's a how-to, and my dad was in the Navy for 25 years. Then he taught safety on the college campus for 25 years. Okay, and we took his notes and we kind of pounded it into this book and put it together and published it.
That had to be satisfying to take your dad's works and form them up into a book and publish them.
Oh, sure it was.
That had to be great for you as a son.
He's pleased as punch. They're retired up in Ohio now, and he just loves the idea.
Now, your other book, The U.S. Constitution and the Red Stain, when you read the back cover, it says, many have complained the U.S. government operates its foreign policy in an unconstitutional manner. The author of the work you have here not only claims that is true, he documents it using all available resources. This is not a rant. It is a very well thought out political science and history. And unfortunately, it's all true, and it leaves the reader with one question. Where does we as Americans go now? How do we as Americans face the new world order, which emerges a bit more each day? And a lot of people with this pandemic say this is just another move in a movement towards a global new world order that is unconstitutional, the U.S.'s participation in it, and that it operates actually just without any regard for the Constitution.
Well, the pandemic is kind of a curious thing. And, sometimes I think, is this just the UN, the World Health Organization trying to control the population? Has it gone that far? Or are we talking about just a chance thing that happened in China and spread from there?
And you'll have a lot of people on each side of that argument. There are people that think that there literally was, I've heard this argument, that it was a mistake by China to get out, that it was really developed so that China could use it inside their borders as a population control. And it's kind of like a wildfire when you do prescribed burns, and the prescribed burn got out of control, and now it's worldwide.
Could be, who's
I've heard that theory.
Yeah. We've got a lot going on that's kind of out of control. We have a constitution, and I relate this in the book in 2 places in that booklet on the Constitution. We have secret budgets that are passed by the Congress as laws, okay, and signed by the president. Running the CIA since 1947, it's been a black budget. Okay, and then we have a constitution that says that Congress must publish a budget. Okay, and the Constitution, as I was taught in high school, is the supreme law of the land.
That's my understanding.
Yes, and you can't write a law that overrides the Constitution.
You must amend the Constitution.
You must amend the Constitution, and they're not doing that. And is there a price to be paid? Sure there is. There's a price to be paid for operating an open government, but that's what we're supposed to be doing here.
Do you think the vast majority of Congress or people would say, well, but when the federal budget is released, there's a line item in there that says CIA budget. It doesn't describe what the CIA does. It just says CIA budget, and that because of national security reasons, we can't tell you what all's in that budget, but we list it in the general budget that it's there. That should satisfy the constitutional requirements.
I would think it would, and we're not doing that. I think we have to do that, and it's not just the pure intelligence community. It's they call the CIA the company. The insiders do, but it's not just the pure intelligence community. It's how we buy some of these big weapons. That's black too. And you don't even see the names of the weapons in the budget.
Well, here in recent years, and when I say recent years, the last 50 years, there's been some stark situations in our country that have went right against the Constitution because there was nothing written in the Constitution on how to deal with certain situations. First one that comes to mind is Ollie North and the Iran-Contra affair.
I was deeply involved with Nicaragua policy. I did an internship at the U.S. Army War College in 1983, and I wrote a paper that went to the highest levels, my internship paper. And it was presented by one of the War College faculty on the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour in about 1984. That about 6 months after I left there, he went on national TV with that paper. He didn't give me any credit for it, but you know. And I said, what we have here is the Sandinistas were revolutionaries, possibly in the beginning, but they have now made a direct turn towards Marxism, okay? And then your Ollie North crowd took the ball and ran with it, and they said, we're going to stop this thing, you know? I don't know what to think of Oliver North. I've never met the man. You know, was he a hero? I'm not sure.
I know he was functioning outside of the Constitution.
Definitely.
I know that.
Yeah.
Now, but because he was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, he was probably under direct orders from whoever was above him. So,
well, you had Admiral Poindexter was his boss.
Right. So was that Ollie North was doing exactly what he was supposed to do, following a direct order. Now, I don't think Ollie North woke up one morning and goes, I think I'll violate the Constitution. I think he was involved in a covert situation. And you explain in the book, the word covert doesn't actually mean what a lot of people think it means, because a lot of people think covert means hidden, behind the scenes where nobody knows about it. Well, people knew about the Sandinistas. People knew about the Iranian connection. It wasn't the best kept secret in Washington.
No, the Iranian connection was kind of secret, but the whole covert war in Nicaragua, where the it wasn't secret.
No,
the Sandinistas knew they were under siege. We knew they were under siege. We were funding the siege, so everybody knew it was happening, but you couldn't point a finger, you know, until one day when a little Middle Eastern daily newspaper published Oliver North's name as the man behind the scenes. Nobody really knew who he was or what he was doing.
We talk about covert operations, and it's something that in the last 40, 50, 60 years, with the advent of Hollywood, with the spy fit pictures and all, we learn about black ops and covert operations. Is this a new phenomenon, or has this been going on in the United States for a long time?
It's been going on since before we were a country. You
talk about that in the book, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We sponsored ships to be run out of French ports to attack British ships to kind of provoke the British into fighting with the French, so the French would declare war on the British on our behalf.
Which they did.
Which they did. And without the French, we wouldn't have won the Revolutionary War, you know. You know, if it hadn't been for these covert ops, we wouldn't be sitting here talking to each other, you know.
And when we say covert ops, you're talking about really pre-State Department type deals where Benjamin Franklin, when he went and spent the 11 years in France and everybody thought he was over there frolicking with the French women and all, he was really on a covert operation for the Continental Congress and General Washington to try to convince the French to come to our aid.
Right. And, you know.
And he was covering it up with his philandering. Was what he was doing.
He was. And what I found is that Franklin went a lot further. He said we should be launching raids from France into the Scottish and the English cities, coastal cities.
Paying privateers to do that.
Yes.
Under the guise of the French flag.
We were paying privateers. Yeah. But Franklin had plans to, you know, invade the British homeland. You know, he wanted to take this thing to the limit.
He was tired of the tyranny of the British regulars and all without any kind of representation in Parliament. And he was like, you know what? A clean break. And by the way, France pushed us and said, look, Are you going to try to break away? It will help if you break away from England, but if you're just trying to get a better situation, more representation in Parliament, or trying to get a better, we're not about. If you want to break away from England, we're okay with that. But if you're just trying to get a better deal from England, don't come knock on our door.
That's where the Declaration of Independence came in, where we said we're going for broke, and that really helped bring the French into the war fully behind us.
And that was by the way, for folks who don't know, it wasn't roses and sweet tea getting the Declaration of Independence done. There were a lot of guys in the Continental Congress that thought that independence was way too far, that was anarchy, and that was something that shouldn't be done. It took some convincing and some actual backroom arm twisting and all to get everybody to agree that the Declaration of Independence should even happen.
Sure. And then when we had the Articles of Confederation after we became a nation, which was the Constitution before the Constitution, when we were just like a loose confederation of states, not this centrally powered republic that we are now under the Constitution. Where was I going with that? Help me out here, Tom.
French?
No. The Constitution said that we were not going to, operate these clandestine wars, and that's what we're doing every day today.
When did policy start to diverge from the Constitution, from following what the Constitution described needed to be done?
Well, I would say the real break happened in 1947 with the National Security Act, which created the CIA. There were cases of executive action where the president just kind of did things, before that. But in 1947, the CIA was created, and, that was when we pretty much, shall I say, institutionalized the secret budgets and the secret wars.
A lot of people say that happened because we got caught asleep at the wheel with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Although I will tell you, there's a lot of evidence that the powers that be knew of the impending attack of the imperialistic regime in Japan, and that it was kind of put to the wayside because of the need to get into the engagement over in Europe, and they knew that the Axis powers were good with Japan. So now there's no historical book written about it, but there is a thought process that the CIA wasn't as needed as they said it was, because America had ways of gathering intelligence long before 1947.
Sure. The Office of Naval Intelligence in the 1800s was the first permanent intelligence agency that we had. And my take on the whole Pearl Harbor thing, and that was one of the driving forces behind forming the CIA. The other was the Red Threat, the communists,
right, the
Soviets. But my take on Pearl Harbor is that I don't believe Roosevelt knew we were going to be attacked on that day in Hawaii.
No, but he knew there was an impending.
He should have known. He knew there was an impending threat. It was more negligence than, a deliberate act on his part to ignore it. I think there was no coincidence that those two aircraft carriers were out of Pearl Harbor that day.
Just happened to be out of Pearl Harbor.
Now, I think your Admiralty knew what was going on.
Of course.
Yeah.
They were in touch with what was going on in the Pacific Theater, or they would be derelict of their duties.
Sure.
And it was not an accident that those carriers were not at...
Ferrying aircraft to Midway, I think, is what they said they were doing.
Yeah. That's not an accident.
No.
It's just there's no way you'll ever convince me that they were not in harbor by accident.
But there's also no way you'll convince me that an American president would have deliberately allowed that many.
No, I don't think he deliberately allowed that many deaths.
Yeah.
I just think that the American government knew there was an impending situation with Japan.
Absolutely.
And fell asleep at the wheel, but used that as one of the reasons they created the CIA, when in fact they had intelligence about the impending Japanese attack the whole time. They just didn't have a specific date. They knew Japan was itching for a fight with the U.S.
Well, the head of U.S. intelligence at that time was a guy named Wild Bill Donovan. He was a National Guardsman that won the Medal of Honor in World War I, and just before World War II took hold, he was appointed as coordinator of information, it wasn't like the CIA, it was like a small bureau, okay? But that's what was doing the intelligence work. And he didn't get fired as a result of Pearl Harbor.
No.
You know?
We're talking with Patrick Pacalo. He is the author of the U.S. Constitution in a Red Stain. Let's talk about the CIA created in 1947 with its budgets that aren't necessarily opaque or transparent, and the Cold War. Because that's really that the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, up until Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, that was really when the CIA was going pretty much unchecked in everything they were doing, because as long as it was stopping the spread of communism, the government was okay with it.
Yeah, I'll go with that. There was a period from 47 in the Truman administration to early 60s when you had the Kennedy-Johnson transition, when Kennedy was assassinated, where the CIA was absolutely running wild.
Out of control.
Yeah. You had a covert op in Europe that resulted in the fiasco in Hungary, where maybe 50,000 Hungarians were killed. You had the covert op for the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, which was planned by Eisenhower and left by Eisenhower to Kennedy to go up with or not.
The only reason that's not the worst covert operation ever is because Jimmy Carter came along with the Iranian hostage crisis.
Oh, boy, that was yeah.
But the Bay of Pigs up until that point was the worst, probably, debacle the CIA had ever done.
I would say so, and it's still one of the worst. But then there came a period of investigations. You had in the early 70s, mid 70s, you had the Watergate. You had the what was called the family jewels were disclosed. The family jewels were the CIA's secret biological weapons program, assassinations programs that were brought before Congress by a guy named William Colby, who was head of the CIA at that time, and he was hated by his own people. He said, "You're stabbing us in the back by bringing this all to light." And he kind of mysteriously passed a few years ago. He was found dead near his home, an apparent canoeing accident, back in, I don't know what year that was, the 90s.
That brings up the thought of the deep state. And you hear that now, the deep state, and it's a covert group behind the scenes. And you hear the ex-agents are in it, and powerful money mongers throughout the world are involved with it. And it brings me to think there's one prominent family who has had a father and son who were both presidents, but the father of that group was also head of the CIA at one point.
Right.
And, people, sometimes I don't think people look at the Bush family near as close as they should sometimes to see what George Herbert Walker Bush did while he was the director of the CIA.
Well, George Herbert Walker Bush took over after Bill Colby.
Right.
And he was kind of like Mr. Clean, The situation had already been kind of wiped clean. We're starting over, and that was his take on.
But isn't that what the CIA should have done? Because they were such wild cowboys. We'll bring this Crystal Clean guy in.
Yeah,
he'll give the image of Crystal Clean, but behind the scenes it was still business pretty much as usual. Just he was better on the front end of saying, "No, we're good. We're doing a good job. We're not the bad guys anymore."
You have these whole huge corporations around the D.C. area that. Some of them, they say, are paid to start wars at behest of America in the world. And they are all ex-military, ex-CIA, ex-FBI, all these X's, making more money as X's than they were when they were on the inside of government.
Well, of course. You could make more money if you're behind the screen. If you're the wizard, you make more money than if you're just a puff of smoke that's screaming and hollering that I'll give you a brain and get out of here, little girl, with your dog. If you're the guy behind the curtain, you make more money.
Yeah.
Hey, tell people how they can find your book. Can you find this on Amazon? Can you go find it where we can? It's a great read, The U.S. Constitution and the Red Stain.
Amazon.com, Patrick Pacalo, Pacalo. Go to Amazon.com and search it from there, and you will find it. It's about $5.50, $5.65. It's not a long-winded book. It's a booklet. It's about 60 pages.
Fantastic read, though. You stay engaged. Once you're in it, you stay engaged.
We sell a few each week and make a few dollars here and there. You know, it's a hobby for me. I'm medically retired from the service. I got hurt. And I said, what am I going to do with myself? And I said, I'll dig into this stuff, you know, because I was really in that field as an intern.
Well, thanks so much for coming in and stopping in today and talking to us about it. You got any other books that you're in the midst of writing or anything right now?
I'm still working on one on the Truman era. I've been working on that for a while, and I'm still working on it. I'd be glad to come on when it's ready.
The buck stops here.
All right, sir.
You know, Harry Truman, one of the guys that I don't think gets enough credit as President of the United States.
Yeah.
I think he gets tied in. Well, he was FDR's vice president. He was doing FDR's work. I don't think he gets enough credit on what he did as a president.
When he finished his term, he drove home in his little jalopy the same way he came to Washington. He didn't leave a rich man.
He was Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington, yeah.
He really was, who ended up being president of the United States.
He was also a W-1 vet.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
From
he was
Missouri.
National Guard, Missouri.
From Missouri.
National Guardsman.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick, for coming in. It's been a wonderful talk with you.
All right, sir. I appreciate it.
Have a good day. Coming up next, it'll be, I got some news. The county, not so keen on the idea of the Sears building as their staff was. I'll tell you about that. Plus, we got Career Source, Marion Levy and Citrus coming in to talk with us as well today. All that right here on 1370 AM, 96.3 FM on a very, very cold Wednesday hump day here in the Brick City, beautiful Ocala, Florida. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
Here's a question for you. Do you think 24